attorneys have been working on that. We've been going back through. We found some other historical data going all the way back to 1989 as far as even the EMS separate contract for EMS and all that. So she's going over all that, those documentations, and making the necessary changes as far as the contract lengths. I mean, the original contract that the city had signed was a 4-year contract, and we're going to change the language on that to 1-year contracts, renewing and stuff like that. That would be something that the attorneys will talk to you about. So that's really where we're at with that right now. I mean, I don't have any more to add right now.
And basically, I'll just say that, of course, you know, there's some side issues that have prevented us from getting to the negotiation of the current contract. You know, that being this tangled web involving the EMS issue, you know, whether there's payment from the city owed issue. And so what we are trying to do now is, and I haven't reviewed all these, I just got them shortly before the meeting today, but there's some additional information that was located. Hopefully, you know, that'll kind of bring into clarity, whatever the clarity is, what the history is, so that then we can then move to negotiating the current contract. And we had some communication with the city's attorney, Rick Curry, on a couple of issues in the contract. You know, I think as far as working out the term, the termination language, those type things, I think we'll be able to work those out. Of course, there's still compensation to discuss and some other issues that may not be as simple to work out. But I did want you all to know that we're kind of trying to get the historical issues worked out before we actually get the current language. And of course, I know, you know, everybody's anxious to get an answer, whatever that answer is, and candidly was surprised that we were able to put our hands on this, because I've been told we didn't have all this. So I don't know. I mean, it's we're piecing it together. I can say that.
Okay, so we have a standstill on that then.
Well, it's not a standstill. I mean, it's moving
Well,
forward.
you
But
got to research it and then give us an answer.
well, you know, we're going to look at it and tell you what's there, and then you'll be able to make a decision based on knowing, you know, what is there.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing is the judicial in rem. I spoke to y'all in the last meeting about the judicial in rem sales, and we provided the attorney some more documentation on those type of sales. And as far as the different instances, I've got 3 properties I'm actually pulling out of tax sales because they can be considered an excess of sale. Well, I got one that's a 35-acre tract we're going to pull out because the landowner can actually come up and say, well, for this amount of taxes, you got to cut out this certain piece of parcel, and that's the only piece which can be the back piece of the land. No, you know, be isolated when you can't even get in and out, no access to it. And we have several of those. Millwood plantations, the parcels we have out there, 20-acre tracts, 25-acre tracts, stuff like that. For people who's out of town, they're not paying the taxes on 2 and 3 years, and that's still, the amount of taxes is not going to justify the entire parcel. That's what a judicial in rem sale will actually take care of. You'll actually go in front of a Superior Court judge, and they'll make the decision whether or not it can be sold on the courthouse steps for those.
How many pieces like that do we have?
There's several. There's several. I mean, the majority of look at Millwood Plantation, I guess over the course, even prior to me coming in, the former tax commissioner has sold. There's been several that's actually been sold that, I mean, they could have been considered an excess of sale, an excess of levy. As far as commercial property, anything like that, right now we've only got one. I know of one that's in the city limits that we've got that this would be good to use. And it's just, like I said, it's a tool for us, for me to be able to collect the taxes. There, you know, there's one law that states that we use any and all means that's afforded to us by law to collect the taxes. Then you got this other law that actually states that to do this type of sale, we need a resolution from the county government authority. The previous one, if it's in the city, and the city, it's in the city properties only, the city government can actually pass a resolution. Well, that's only good for municipal taxes. That's the only thing it's going to go for. So when if somebody purchases it at the end of 60 days, they're still not going to have a clear title because they're still going to be subject to all the liens still out there for the state, the school, and the county taxes.
Okay. Mr. Moore,
What is the percentage of non-judicial tax sales that are actually redeemed by the owners within within the 12 to 14 month period? You got a number?
I really don't have those numbers because when somebody does redemption, we're not informed of it. So the tax bills will go in, the next year's taxes will actually go in the actual current record holder and plug care of the person who bought it at the tax sale. And then after that, if it changes in, but that's not something that we actually track. And as far as the counties, I've done a poll of the counties. Brandon County has a resolution. Glenn, Lawrence, Henry County, which is McDonough and Locust Grove, that's all they do is judicial and rem sales.
I realize that I probably represent the majority of those people who would be directly involved in these type of sales, as far as especially with large acre tracts, and I can't support it because it limits their abilities to be able to redeem their property should they be caught in an unfortunate situation, which anybody at any time could be in.
Right, but there's remedies for that as far as them coming in, working payments out, we do payment arrangements, stuff like that. But what I'm dealing with is you got tracts of land where they're not making any effort whatsoever. If you send them tax bills, you send them 30-day intents, you send them delinquent letters, just say, hey, you delinquent, call us. And you do this year in, year out, and they're 2, 3, 4 years behind. That's the only option we have because we're still sitting out there. They're not paying their taxes. I've got a large acre
You can still
tract.
do the non-judicial tax.
You can, but I can't do it on a large acre tract like that. That's considered an excessive
After 3
sale.
to 4 years, you still can't do it.
No, because the amount of taxes, because of what you're looking at, the amount of taxes that they're due to pay, especially if they're in a covenant, is less than what they would be if they wasn't in a covenant. So you're paying on a much lesser amount. So there's no way for me to do that. And if I was actually do that, those type of sales, the county can be sued, and then you can look at big money. There's been historical data. One county just got popped for $7 million.
How many of these cases do you currently have? I mean,
Right now,
you got a ballpark figure?
right now, I know in the next 2 tax sales, I've got 3. I've got 3 in the next 2 tax sales that I'm actually pulling out. I've got 1 other property that I'm waiting, if we can get this resolution, to go ahead and push and sell. And that's the way we're going to try to do all 4 of them at one time. It cuts down on the cost of the.
I just know based on my experience and coming to some of the sales, and I hadn't been to maybe one since you've been commissioner. I came to several on the previous commissioners. I know of many cases where the owner did redeem their property.
Right.
And I realize people from out of town come in and make 20-30% on these things.
Right.
That's the world we live in.
Oh, I understand that.
And I don't have a problem with that. I don't want to limit our property owners and taxpayers. I don't want to place any more burden on them should they find themselves in that situation to try to redeem. Because if you go to that, if it gets to that point, you're not going to be able to raise the money in 60 days to redeem your property. Let's face it.
Right,
In a year, possibly you can.
I agree. But also,
that's why I can't.
but also the same ones that you know, the same ones I know, they'll still come in and they'll say, hey, I need to sit down and talk with you, and I'll work payment plans out with the ones who come in and see us. I actually, when I run across people out in town, like, hey, how about coming in and talk to me, let's sit down and we can work it out. I do that. But if you're not helping yourself, and I'm doing everything I can to get you to come in, and you're still unwilling to come in, then the same thing is you're paying your taxes, I have to pay my taxes, everybody else has to pay theirs. And that's just a thing that the government's run on, they run on the taxes. And that's part of the job that I'm tasked with, the hand is getting the money in to keep it
I
going.
understand all that, and on the other side of that, once we give you this resolution and place that authority in your office, then we forever have given it, you've got that.
But that's
what I'm
nothing,
saying.
but this resolution is nothing that I'm gonna use it's nothing for
And I'm not
abuse.
saying that.
Right, but you
the
have.
authority to do it from
Right,
now on.
right. But
We have no
you have to take into account too, with judicial and rem, it still is not just my decision. Once this is placed in front of a Superior Court judge and all the parties come in, the Superior Court judge can say, you know what, we're not gonna do that. Or even that person may come in and say, well, I got the money now.
But we're
I mean,
the
it goes in front of the
we're the
judge.
catalyst. We're the ones who, when the people say, why did you do this? Why did you give him this hammer to drop on our head, you know, as a body? When the fact of the matter is, we don't really know what the conditions are with all these folks that you say you're having to sell the properties. If we had a vetting process with this commission out of your office in a joint effort to sit down here and say, hey, look, every time you want to sell these properties under this resolution, we had the ability to say, maybe you shouldn't do this.
You can put limitations on it. You can put size of tracks. You can put values on there. I mean,
Well, that would be something to
you can
consider
do
in
that.
market.
That's not an issue when it comes to doing a resolution. But the biggest thing
You
is
never said that.
the biggest thing is the first property I've got is $84,000 worth of taxes,
And that
and I've got somebody wanting to
But
buy it.
that's just one.
That's
I mean,
just,
what
you're right,
happens
that's
in
just
county,
one.
you got a lot of
But when I'm
taxes.
dealing with, I've got these large acre tracts, which are the same way, we talking 3 and 4 years, they're not paying the taxes on them. And there's nothing you can't draw them in to come in and do payment plans. You can't do anything with them. I mean, exactly.
Why don't you give us the opportunity to sit down and discuss some options from our side of it to present to you that might
As
be
far
able
as
to.
the stipulation, or
Just-
what you just were talking
The
about.
limitations are, the guys.
Let's put something on
Right, but
that.
I mean, that's the reason why I'm here. We need to move forward because we got some properties that we need to get taken care
And
of.
these people that ain't paying their taxes is putting the burden on us folks that
Exactly.
does pay our taxes.
Exactly.
Mr. Chairman, one thing, I mean, it seemed like we already talked about a resolution. I mean, can it be just handled case by case? You can come and make a presentation?
It can, but
I mean,
Not once it's the resolution.
Yeah,
no, I'm not
actually,
talking about
actually,
blanket
you
resolution.
could make a resolution
I'm talking about-
for one property and say,
That's what I'm talking
we're gonna, you can do a judicial and rem sale and it's good for property at
Yes.
this address.
And
Okay,
that
but
way
see,
you
but
go
the thing
us.
is once you get into that, then we're gonna deal with, if I got 3 or 4 or 5 properties, then we gotta come back and that's just gonna keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing.
We're elected just like you're elected, so we have people we have to answer to also.
If you don't compromise, that may be a compromise.
I mean, that, it's-
Yeah, why not bring them and present them on a as-needed basis? Can we do that? You're saying we can do that, correct?
I can do it, but I mean, it's gonna, once we do that, it's just, we can do it, I mean, if that's what y'all want, we can, I don't care. I just need a resolution to be able to sell the ones I need to sell. You know, I'm gonna tell you right now,
Pastor, and you're our tax collector, you get a way to collect.
but-
I'm gonna go on record and tell you that a tax sale is the very last means that I want to do.
Well,
Because I don't want to have to do taxes. I prefer somebody buying them. You know, who come in and pay their taxes. I
That's
prefer
what we
that.
all want.
You know, but I'm just
That's
saying,
not
when
gonna
it comes down to doing it, and I'm at the point, it's okay, I gotta get this collected.
we can agree with you. We
So,
understand.
you know, that's
We will-
the only
Let's
thing,
bring
it's just
them
a
and
tool.
present them, say, look, I need to do a.
We'll review it under our
judicial tax
legal.
sale on these properties, list them and let us say, okay, you have our blessing, do it.
And
What's wrong with doing it that way?
we'll list them under our resolution, and that's,
No,
and
just
that's,
give them a blank.
I mean, you do the same thing about back taxes, or used to do it, they used to bring them in here all the time for giving taxes.
I ain't got a problem.
Let's do it that way, let's put something together that way. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not gonna say, okay, you have this authority to settle them like you want to as a commissioner, I'm not gonna do that. I gotta live out there.
I do too. I live in the same area you do, Vic.
And it's not a
I mean, I do.
It's not a
You know that,
personal thing.
but I'm just saying, I mean, it's my job, so that's the thing is, I wanna do my job. And I wanna make sure that
Bring
everybody
the
gets.
first one that you have, the 84,000 to us, and we'll
Let us
sit down
pass
with you and
on.
we'll look at it.
Let's do it.
Put it on that, put it on the September agenda.
Give it to the manager and we will take a
Bring
look.
it to
Let's
us.
get out
Bring
there.
it. Write it up, bring it to us, let's do it.
If you have multiples, you can list them under your
Yeah.
subsection by address.
We'll listen, we'll do it, have to do it
Give us
probably
a
map and
list.
parcel, because you're gonna have properties that don't have addresses.
Right, okay.
They're not even. they're
We don't want you
not
taking
even-
all the blame, Rogers, when you.
Oh, come on, man. Y'all don't mind me taking all the blame. Believe me, there's enough press about this shows that I take all the blame. But I'm just looking, I just want to clear this stuff up.
Yeah, I agree with it.
And like I said, if the city was to do their own resolution, if y'all decided not to, the city, and it was municipal taxes, whoever buys that, even with a 60-day redemption after that, they're still going to be subject to all the liens still out there, and they're still not gonna have marketable title until it's.
And we want to help the city clean up whatever it is that they're trying to clean up with. It's city and county.
Well, right, but I'm talking about total, I'm just saying that's part of the state law. The state law, if the county decided they didn't, the municipality says, yes, we want to, then the only thing that I can collect is the city taxes.
Right.
And that will be sent to them, and they're still not gonna have, whoever purchases it, and this even for investment. You know, just say God for, this is for an example. Out here in the industrial park, say,
Whatever.
one of the mobile home plants that is not under abatement does not pay their taxes and goes years and years without paying. I still cannot do a non-judicial in rem sale with there because of the value and the taxes. But the only way that you're going to have somebody who's going to come purchase that at a judicial in rem is going to be an investor who's going to be willing to buy it.
Well, that's what I say, you have to have a buyer on the other side.
yeah.
If you're gonna do all this, you have to have someone willing to step up
Oh, yeah.
and do something with the properties to be able to put it back on the Avalon.
Most definitely.
So,
And
I mean,
that's
if
the
you
other
don't
thing
have that,
is
it's
a
useless.
property that I have that I'm going to do like that will have a potential, will have a buyer.
And that's what.
That's not one of those that, you know, because you're looking at money, and that's the whole thing is the story. It's going to cost attorney money. You know, it won't be our county attorney, it can't be a city attorney. It'll be a separate attorney, but they're going to charge a fee. So it's not something that I'm going to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to take these 10, we're going to go and put them on the steps just to see if they sell. Because if you don't have a buyer, then you're wasting money, and we're not going to waste money.
You're just shuffling paper.
Exactly. So we're not going to do that. I'm not going to keep adding additional attorney fees on top of taxes if we don't have a potential buyer.
And that's what we need to see. That's where we're at.
But, you know,
Present the one or two, whatever, let's look at it.
Bring us to the-
Let's go for there and see how that works. Okay.
any
Appreciate
other
it.
questions? Any other questions?
No.
Come on, man. We got the paper here. We got the paper, we got the media here, come on.
Fair.
We already said no.
She got all that. She got all that. All right,
All you can do is try.
Commissioner's out, something to say a bit. Any of you got anything? Say, Mr. Nixon, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Dixon?
No, I just got to, like to congratulate Miss Jennifer on becoming a partner.
Yeah.
I thought y'all really knew.
Oh, yeah.
You had to work low, didn't you? You had to work low.
You've been cutting them, now you're one of them.
And
You
also,
definitely proved it.
Well deserved.
and also that weekly report you sent us,
Yes, sir.
I was very impressed. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to build on that too. It's kind of starting. so.
It was great. I
I'm trying to give
really
y'all
enjoyed reading it.
You may not, it may be information you don't really want to care to look at, but you can keep flipping.
Well, it's
More than
it's detailed. I like it. Thanks for that.
We're not quite used to that, but we like it. Just I love looking, maybe he's doing, says he's doing an excellent job. You know, we're pleased with what I'm hearing.
We appreciate y'all. All right, county manager, it's your time to talk.
I've got, this is short, this is only about 26 items. No, I'm kidding. No, I think there's 4 here. The first one there, I think you have a copy of it. It's an employee requisition for a budgeted position that we're backfilling, and need to just get that,
Yeah, since making all these substantive changes, I mean, we've always said before, there was nothing, it is a budgeted position.
yeah, that's one of the things I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
If it's budgeted, do you all need to, okay. Okay.
We appreciate you running it by.
Sure, I want to find out from you all first, to see what your thoughts are. Okay. Yeah, if anything's out of the ordinary, you rest assured I'll bring it to you. so you know.
Budget item from the end.
Yeah. Second thing there is the FY17 budget. We'll have a public hearing at the next meeting, before the next meeting, to formalize that, get it adopted and get it moving so we can get that out of the way. The other item, number 3, there's Needham Road. Just to let you know, we have received some complaints on the condition of that road. Michael and I have talked about it. It's one that definitely is going to need attention, if not now, very, very soon. And I know Michael and the crew there has been trying to work out the issues there with it coming apart and such. But
Is the contractor going, or the state going to redo that road once they get through tearing it up?
You really have to maintain it to travel on.
Right. That's what we've been trying to do. We've been working with them.
What I shared with the point manager, Scott, and you can check, you can research this and do this. We require, and this has been an issue, and I wanted to discuss it, and I forgot it, but now, if I may have to do so, we require timber harvesters, we require them to come up with a letter of credit, for road repair, basically, if they destroy a road and they have to fix it. Why is that any different? This is a question I posed to Paul, of course he's going.
right.
That contractor is in our county, and my hat's off to him what was doing with the paper, out there. But why should we treat them any different than we do a timber harvest? Because the road would not have been destroyed had that work not been going on. You see what I'm saying? So that's something that I think you need to really check into and see if he might be at least partially responsible for repair, because that road had, how long had that been, Michael? How long had it been since we had resurfaced that road on this?
Year and a half.
A year and a half. How much money did the county spend on that?
I'd have to look into that one.
It was.
And we did under me, or
We do need to pull it.
Yeah.
And have you had a discussion with Michael about signing off on what we talked about, signing off on their pay request? Because that'll get their attention also.
Yeah.
You and Michael,
Obtain some of that.
Yep.
Michael needs to go out there with a,
Probably might get DOT and everybody.
Yeah, I'd get them involved.
whatever it takes.
And along the, a question for Michael, did we resolve that issue on the other road that basically, I know you went out that too?
Yes, sir. I videotaped everything out there.
Excuse me?
I've got it all on videotape.
Good.
They have quit using.
They have quit using it. Railroad crossing's been closed, so they can't cross it anymore.
How are they cooperating with you, Michael?
The contractor has been fairly reasonable. The problem is DOTs won't stand back and act like they don't have no
They're always.
skin in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But I mean, my thing is, in my argument, and what me and manager talked about, they're the one permitted pits. We didn't.
Right.
We didn't know anything about it until they started hauling dirt.
That's right.
Started tearing up.
Jennifer, that kind of falls into your realm domain there.
Was this,
I'll be candid, I only heard the last half of it because I was probably kidding. So whatever it is, I'm gonna say no.
was this resurfaced Lamig 2 years ago? Yes. The state gives us money and now they're.
Right. Now they're tearing it up.
And 30% of our splosh went into that. You have to put 30% of that project has to be.
But the issue at hand is the danger that our.
I thought we had all that worked out a month ago.
Well, we're working on it. I mean, it's so you have to constantly remind them.
Every
You
day.
have to constantly remind them.
Have you been out there to meet those folks?
No, I've got, talked to a couple of them.
Okay.
And not only that, there's school buses on this road too. And
Right.
That got my attention real
Right.
quick.
Right. You can,
Yeah.
just a suggestion.
Griffin Road.
You know,